Now, the world is all set to witness the blockbuster India versus Pakistan clash once again next year in the ICC Champions Trophy. But where will that match be held? Or for that matter, where will all those matches, which include the men in blue, be held? Well, dark clouds are hovering over those questions because sources have said that the BCCI is against Team India playing any of its matches in the tournament in Pakistan. The Indian Cricketing Board is expected to knock on the doors of the International Cricket Council and urge them to schedule the Men in Blues matches either in Sri Lanka or in Dubai. Now, as per the initial draft for the Champions Trophy, arch rivals India and Pakistan were supposed to face off against each other in Lahore on the 1st of March. It is key to understand that Team India has not travelled to Pakistan since 2008 when global events are scheduled in the neighbouring nation like last year's Asia Cup. The Men in Blues matches have been held in a different country under the guise of a hybrid model. Let's not put across that to my guest joining me at this point. We have a 360-degree panel talking politics, talking defense, and talking sport as well. We have Pradeep Mawar, leader of the BJP, Colonel Dini, defense expert. I'm also being joined by Vedam Jaishankar, sports journalist, and I'm also being joined by Farhad Saeed, journalist joining us from Pakistan. Vedam, coming to you first. This is something that was a big question ever since it was announced that the Champions Trophy is being held in Pakistan, because the BCCI had always indicated that the final call will be taken by the Indian government as to whether the team would travel to Pakistan at all, and it seems now the decision is likely to be no.
Yeah, that's very true. It was always known. The only concession that the government of India and the BCCI had given was that we would play against Pakistan in multi-nation tournaments abroad, that's outside Pakistan. But we were not interested in playing them in Pakistan. And Pakistan has to realize that, if terrorism is such a big issue for them, they got to get rid of terrorism. Otherwise, we're not going to play there. It's not just a question of safety of our players. If we have seen how the Sri Lankan team also suffered when they were shot at in Pakistan. Besides other things, Pakistan is exporting terrorism, and we're just not interested in playing cricket against people who kill our own people, our nationalities. So I think the government of India will be very steadfast in it. And I think a whole lot of cricketing fraternity will also support the government, because at the end of the day, you don't want to see so much of murder and mayhem going on in the country. Cricket or no cricket, yes, we would love to see a good cricket series, but that doesn't mean we sacrifice our pride, our self-respect, and go and play in a country which is exporting terror. So as far as the cricketing fraternity is concerned, whether it's players, whether it's administrators, every single one of them will be supporting the fact that we don't go to Pakistan and play in these troubled times. Yes, if Pakistan can clean up its act, we would love to go there and play. They can also love it, come and play here. I myself have gone to Pakistan to cover cricket series, and I know those are maybe a little more lenient time when the Indian government was more lenient, and maybe there was not so much of violence. But now the fact that so much of things are happening all over the world, and in India in particular, where Pakistan is exporting its terror and terrorism, I don't think India should go at all. And listen, if India does not go, the Champions Trophy will not take place in Pakistan. That's for sure. If they try and play the Champions Trophy without India, I'm sure they won't even get 1/3 of the television rights that they would get. So I think the ICC also will be very smart about it, maybe move it out. The last time they played the Champions Trophy was in 2017. So it will be 8 years. It's not that it has to be played. It has to be played every 4 years, but we've given it a miss already. And I don't think if you give it another miss, it's going to make any difference to the cricketing world.
Well, that's something which will be quite harsh indeed for Pakistan to know and understand. Let me go across to Farhad Saeed, journalist, Pakistani journalist, joining us at this point. Farhad, thank you for speaking to Mirror Now. Now, I can understand there will be a lot of outrage within the Pakistani cricketing and the sporting community as well over this decision. Some may call it unfair, but at the end of the day, honestly, can Pakistan blame anyone but itself, given the fact that its track record when it comes to harboring and exporting terror continues to be checkered at this point, and you really cannot blame any nation for not wanting to play with Pakistan?
I mean, to begin with, one of your esteemed panelists cited the attack on Sri Lankan team. It's been over a decade that attack took place, and following which Pakistan has hosted international tournaments. Pakistan has been hosting PSL, hosting international players, and hosted international teams Following that, because again, we fought again a ferocious war against terror, we've tightened our security, and we've taken many measures. As far as the boycott, the cause of boycott from the Indian side is being considered, there were calls during the ICC T20 World Cup as well, because again, Kashmir attack was there, I guess, about a month ago, and there were alarming calls that India should not play with Pakistan and India should boycott playing with Pakistan. In fact, should leave the tournament or not play with Pakistan. The point being is, I said back then as well, when India can trade with China despite their border clashes, despite their border disputes, and have a trade worth $116 billion, which is increasing every year. In fact, this year it was 7% increase year on year. Then it is the quotation of Federal Chamber of Commerce of India that the last match that took place between India and Pakistan generated $48,000 per 10 seconds of revenue for the board. Now, I imagine that Indian side has been looking into economics, because again, if you can trade with China, if you can play with Pakistan on international series, why not play Champions Trophy, and why raise voices of boycotting? Because again, what will any issue be settled, or there would be any problems that would be resolved if there would be calls of boycott, and if India actually boycotts? Because imagine, had India boycotted T20 World Cup, the trophy would not have come to India. India would not have been celebrating, because again, India would have boycotted the international tournament.
For us,
why not
see,
come
the point
to Pakistan
is,
and win the trophy and take it back to
for us, the
India?
answer to your question, for us, the answer lies in your question, what you pointed itself. The answer is economics at this point. And at the end of the day, India can very well afford to not go to Pakistan. Pakistan cannot afford to not have India come or not have the Champions Trophy. That's unfortunate plain economics. Now, who's responsible for it? One would say it's Pakistan itself for creating that situation at this point. But yes, you made an important point as well, and I will concede that. And let me bring in Colonel S. Dini as well at this point. Colonel, is there a case of double standards at play here? Because if the reason being given is that we cannot play cricket with a nation that harbors terror and is responsible for the loss of our brave forces at the border on a regular basis, then don't play cricket with them at all. But if you're ready to play cricket with them when it comes to on big stages, when the stakes are high, then where does this line get drawn that, okay, we are not going to play matches in Pakistan, but we are ready to play Pakistan elsewhere. We are ready to we are ready to have these Indo-Pakistan matches, which are always scheduled in the group stage of every tournament to ensure that we get a revenue, we get a sponsor rights. But yet we have this fig leaf of a principle stand that we will not play against a terror exporting nation.
Ritangshu, I don't think so that those are double standards. And clearly, like what Faraz said, I think let's put things in perspective. Pakistan is not China. Okay, there is a difference between Pakistan and China, and why I say so is China does not consider India as an enemy, and Pakistan does consider India as an enemy. And when I say Pakistan, it is the Pakistan army, which I say, and India. Let me put it even more clearly. Pakistan puts that as far as the nuclear weapon is concerned, they said that they have made the nuclear bomb to be used against India, and India has a no first use. Similarly, China also has a no first use. So you cannot compare China and Pakistan to be to be on the same platform for India. No, we have our conflicts with China. We are dealing with it, and we will deal it in the manner which we all know how we are dealing it. As far as Pakistan is concerned, Pakistan is exporting terror on a daily basis ever since 1947 to India. As we speak today, Ritangshu, the bodies of those soldiers who had died in Kashmir, they probably wouldn't have even reached their villages. Now you are talking to a country where your one team, which is the Indian Army, is fighting.
No, but that's my point, Colonel Deni. Colonel Deni, that's precisely my point. if you're talking about honoring the bodies of those soldiers who have not yet reached their villages, why play cricket with Pakistan at all?
I'll tell you.
That's my point. You make either you take a decision that we will not engage with Pakistan no matter what the cost. Even if we lose crores in ad revenue, so be it. Even if we lose a World Cup trophy, so be it. We will not play Pakistan at all. But if you're not taking that principled stance, then can you really hide behind taking this? Cited that yes, we are in a position where we can dictate terms and we will do that. We will not play in Pakistan. But when it comes to serving our commercial interests, we are ready to play Pakistan.
See, Ritangshu, this is not only about our commercial interests. You know, India, BCCI is the biggest board in today's in the cricketing nation. There's no doubt. But you must understand that if India does not play Pakistan in tournaments, then as I think Vedam mentioned, then the tournament will not go ahead. So, you know, if today, like, let's see what happened in the West Indies and the US. The fact that India participated, there were large crowd which had come, which pulled up the US Cricketing Association, which pulled up the West Indies Cricketing Association. Similarly, when India is going down south to Australia, there's a huge crowd which is coming to see those matches. That helps the local boards. So it is not that, you know, our problem with Pakistan, we take it for, you know, destroying other boards. Our problem is with Pakistan playing in Pakistan. There is no doubt. Like going into Pakistan, why should you go and, you know, go into Pakistan? Give them revenue, give them opportunity to cheer and entertain, while we have our soldiers coming from the borders being harmed by this very same nation. So I think that is the policy which we are following. It is not a double standard. It is a very clear-cut strategy as far as I'm concerned.
Okay, Faraz, then if it comes to a more case of revenue, surely for us, a hybrid model is the best model, because then you have India, which ensures that it will not go to Pakistan. But at the same time, you don't really lose out in a lot of revenues, in a lot of hosting benefits, because you still get the majority of the other matches for us. But if you force the issue and if you force India to completely boycott or get out of the tournament, then that will be catastrophic for not just the Pakistani cricketing board, for the Pakistani government, but for all the cricketing nations for us.
I mean, as much I understand the ICC's policies, I understand how BCCI is one of the biggest and one of the most richest board amongst the ICC board members, but I also understand there are some international rules that the BCCI has to accommodate with, and no wonder why the BCCI is still in talks to, you know, come to Pakistan for the Champions Trophy, and it's just the calls that are being made right now. Because again, had the BCCI had this unilateral decision-making power to just step out of the tournament, BCCI would not have even entered the talks or, you know, negotiations to hold the Champions Trophy in Pakistan. Now, I understand there are some international rules the ICCI is governed with, and therefore the BCCI is going with that decision, and they still haven't made any kind of decision as of yet. I just wanted to make a point. You see, I'm not a cricket expert, but I, as a journalist in Pakistan, want to make a point. As far as the cricket is concerned, and as far as terrorism is concerned, I feel that these are two separate issues. Because if we delve into which country is exporting terrorism, I would, of course, quote many of the incidents where Pakistan blames India for exporting terrorism. And it is the international calls that have been made how India is sponsoring terrorism, not on just US soil, but also on Canada's soil.
So then
now,
don't play us.
Don't
play us. If you feel, for us, the point is very simple. For us, if you feel Pakistan has a sovereign right to not play with any country it feels is exporting terror, you're not doing India a favor by playing cricket with us. That's the point that will come across.
You see, I did not wanted to make a tit-for-tat point against who is exporting terrorism on which soil.
So
but I just wanted to make a point that
we are not getting into who is exporting terror.
These two cricketing nations should play cricket, even in India or Pakistan, for both the teams. But when it comes to the larger points of whether Pakistan is exporting terrorism and why should India go in Pakistan to play? Well, India is also exporting terrorism in Pakistan soil, in US soil, in Canada soil, and there has been demands to the Indian government They have not said that, oh, we're not going to engage
for
with
us,
the
that's
Indian
the point.
government.
For us, this
Those
is
are completely
unfortunately
different
for us,
issues.
this is
And
an
the world
argument
does
you're
not
not going to
operate
win.
like
As
that.
to, I mean, the world recognizes which country exports terrorism. The world
If
has
the world
known which
recognizes
country
that
had
India
Osama
as
bin
a
Laden, and I don't want to
terror-exporting
get
country,
sidetracked into
it is
that.
a fact.
Again, for
It
us,
is not
again,
my opinion.
again a friendly word of
Ritangshu, it is a
advice:
fact.
don't get into arguments which you're not going to win, and don't get into arguments which are only going to weaken your case.
Ritangshu, it is
Let me bring it to Pradeep
Ritangshu,
Moore, leader of the BJP. Pradeep Moore,
it
my
is
point is
it is
very
an
simple at
absolute
this point.
fact.
For us, I'm trying to I'm trying to be the devil's advocate at this point. You're making it very hard for anyone to even make a justifiable case for Pakistan. Pradeep Mahar, the simple point is, why not take a principled stance? Why have this case of double standards? If you feel that Indians are being killed by the hands of Pakistani-sponsored terrorists, then do not play Pakistan at all. A few days after India had beaten Pakistan at the 2020 World Cup, after the entire country was celebrating, then what we saw in Riyasi happened. Then again, the same conversation came that no, we should not play Pakistan at all. We should not go to Champions Trophy at all. But ye to doglapan hua na, sir. You are able to celebrate defeating Pakistan at a T20 World Cup. You will always schedule matches with Pakistan in the opening stage of a World Cup so that you play with them, you get it, and if you win, you celebrate, the entire country celebrating. And the next day, you spend crocodile tears over the loss of your brave civilians and the brave Jawans at the hands of Pakistani terrorists. Stop playing Pakistan at all.
No, when you decide that you're not going to a country and you're not willing to play with a country in their soil, that is itself a great insult for a country, right? So when India, BCCI, decides that they are not going to Pakistan, it's on the, on Pakistan. They have to decide, they earlier they decided that they are willing to come to India and they are willing to play. So that's their own decision. As far as our policy decision, that is very clear that we are not, because as far as cricket is concerned, this is not just playing cricket. It involves so many different things. It involves business. It involves developing a conducive environment between two countries. It involves developing international trade. It involves developing mutual tourism. Are we interested in developing mutual tourism or anything like that with Pakistan? No, straightforward no. So this is a straightforward no from India.
But that environment is conducive to play in World Cups. I'll give a simple example. In 2003, England did not play Zimbabwe because, one second, in the 2003 World Cup, in the 2003 Cricket World Cup, England did not play Zimbabwe because it had an opposition to Robert Mugabe's politics. New Zealand did not play Kenya because it had concerns over the security of players. As a result, both England and New Zealand were knocked out in the group stage. Zimbabwe and Kenya went on to the next stage. Kenya went even as far for the semi-finals. At least these countries took a principled stand that we will not play countries we are not comfortable with, even if it means our country being eliminated. But India has not taken that stance.
Look, as far as the cricket is concerned, Pakistan team is placed in such a manner that if India decides not to play, then these kind of contests are not going to happen. So India has decided not to, withdraw from these contests completely, or not to abandon these contests. Rather, keep this contest going on and make Pakistan realize their position. Let them realize their position by clearly saying no, that we are not going to come to your soil. And if you are willing, you can come to our place, and we are ready to welcome you and come and play with us. Not a problem at all, right? Anywhere, if you are,
One last question to Vedam Jaishankar at this point. One last question to Vedam at this point. Yes, it's all fine, and again, I'm asking a word of caution. It's fine to have this bluster, and it's fine for BCCI to flex its muscle at this point. But this is a tournament which has international stakes. All other cricketing boards, including the ICC, have agreed to host and play in Pakistan. If the BCCI arm twists the entire board and the rest of the cricketing world to shift venues to outside Pakistan, or maybe even cancel the ICC Champions Trophy, as you have hinted at this point, does India risk losing the goodwill, at least in the cricketing world, and having all the other cricketing boards gang up against it? Is it a battle which is worth fighting, even if India controls much of the revenue in cricket?
No, it's not just a question of revenue. We've seen this happening earlier. Australia and England refused to go to Sri Lanka. They didn't play Sri Lanka in the World Cup. Forget about anything else. They didn't play. They didn't go to Sri Lanka to play the World Cup. Now, what are we saying? We are saying we are willing to play Pakistan anywhere else. When I say Pakistan, only in multinational tournaments. We will not play Pakistan 1-1. And we are willing to play them elsewhere. maybe it will help fill the ICC coffers. If it fills the ICC coffers, other nations also benefit, including Pakistan, they benefit. But here, if you go to Pakistan, what are you doing?
Indeed.
Yes, ICC coffers will be benefited. But besides that, you're giving a fillip to Pakistan tourism, Pakistan hotels, Pakistan travel, Pakistan industry. And where will that money go? Finally,
I think that's a fair point. That is a fair point, Vedam. That is a fair point, and perhaps the most sensible decision to do, in which only the Pakistani economy is hurt and not that of other cricketing boards. But regardless, thank you so much for joining me, gentlemen. Pradeep Maur, Colonel Dini, Vedam Jaishankar, and also thank you for joining us from Pakistan.